Hello everybody and welcome back to the Leeds Lens. We've got three massive updates for you today. We've got a story around a potential Bournemouth defender coming to Leeds United. That could be really interesting. We've also got a story about Christan Uche, of course, of Getafe. There's been a potential moving needle in terms of price point, which could see Leeds United pull the trigger on that signing. So we're going to talk a bit about that as well. Could that be a good option? The other thing with Christan Uche as well, because I think this is getting closer, is my genuine feeling. I think there's genuine movement now that this deal could happen. So I've actually gone into a bit more detail on that segment, and we're actually going to look at sort of what Christan Uche could actually bring to Leeds United as well. So I'd definitely stick around for that because there's some real sort of detailed information in that I think you would find really interesting. So stick around for that. And we have also got a story around Gustavo Hamer, obviously a bit of a fan theory, a bit of a fan favourite, and there has been reports around that that we're going to mention as well of him coming to Leeds United. So three main stories today, but of course, if you could help the channel by dropping a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. As I always say, massive helps the channel, and as I always say as well, I am trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the transfer window, which is the 1st of September. So as you can see at the moment in the top left-hand corner, we are currently at 880. But if you could help that by smashing a like and a subscription, that would be fantastic. But yeah, let's get into the video, shall we? And let's start with the first story, which is James Hill. Now, this is coming in from Mark McAdam. McAdam, who is very, very good actually around Bournemouth news, immensely good around Bournemouth news. And I believe, in fact, I actually know that he was the guy who broke the Joe Rothwell story to Leeds United last summer, of course, which we do know actually happened as well. So that I do think there's 100% truth in this. I've currently got James Hill on the signing scale. He's a new addition, obviously, at a 1 out of 5 rating. So I think this is unlikely, and I'll explain why in a minute. But in terms of what he actually is, James Hill, 23 years old, centre-back predominantly, but can play right-back. He's got 1 year left on his deal at Bournemouth. And what I've been reading into the fanfare of Bournemouth this morning is that they're a bit going, why on earth are we letting him go? Just give him a new contract, Bournemouth. He's got potential there. Because this is a guy, by the way, who's played 10 times last year, started 6 games. He has got pedigree. He has got the common word that Leeds United have been looking for at times, which is Premier League experience, or in Leeds United's case, a lot of the time, top 5 sort of experience, or in a top 5 league experience. So there is pedigree there. And I understand at times why Leeds United would go for this. And obviously Leeds United are seeking a fullback as well. But my honest opinion around this is that I don't think it's going to happen, which is why I put it 1 rating. And the main reason why I don't think it's going to happen is, we don't need a centre-back. We've got we've got 3 starters in my opinion, Biol, Strauch, and of course Rodon. We've got a backup in Bornau. I think if we didn't have Bornau and we hadn't signed Bornau from Wolfsburg, I think there'd be a potential spot for James Hill to come into the setup at that point. But when we've already got sort of, for me, the 3 starters and Bornau when we need him, why would we now go buy another centre-back predominantly rather than going by an actual full-back? So I don't get this, to be honest. I don't normally say this around Leeds signings. I just don't think this would be a great addition. It's not a knock on the player, nothing like that. It's more to the fact that we just don't need. We're not looking for that profile. We're not looking for a centre back, are we? And this is sort of goes into a debate that I've been having with you guys for the last sort of week or so since I've started this channel, which is around what has been said with Leeds United in terms of opportunities in the market. And I've said this a number of times on this channel. Yes, I get Leeds United want opportunities in the market. Every club does. But when the opportunity is not right for you, don't do it. And this opportunity for me isn't right. I don't hate James Hill as a player. He was good at Blackburn when he played there. He was decent at times when he played for Bournemouth last year. This wouldn't be a bad signing. We don't need a centre-back. So we need a full-back. And why on earth, in my opinion, when you've got like James Justin who's sat there basically, I think saying, please sign me, and you'd go for Hill instead. Again, it's not a knock on Hill. It's just I'm not going to buy a prime Cristiano Ronaldo if I need a new centre-back. So it's not about Hill. It's about profiles and what Leeds United actually need right now. And Leeds United need someone who can play right-back, and they need someone who can play left-back. You could do that by buying 2, a left-back and a right-back. We know Leeds United are not going to do that. They're only looking for 1. For me, this is a no. Obviously, comes in, I will support him. Naturally, we'll do that with every signing. Of course, I'm not unbelievably negative at all. But yeah, for me, when James Justin sat there, I just don't get it. And the other thing as well to mention, if we wanted this sort of profile, we wanted someone who can sort of play full back but also play centre back, There was Jaffret Tanganga sat there for £1 million all transfer window. That's now expired, I believe, that release clause. But why not just go and get Jaffret Tanganga, a guy who's played in the Premier League before? He's now going to go to Sheffield United, but played in the Premier League before, can play right back, can at times fill in at left back, has done that, I believe, for Spurs as well, and obviously can play centre back as well. I don't get, and for £1 million, who I think obviously Hill's going to be more than that. I don't get it. I'd have gone Jaffret Tanganga all day. I also think actually as a right back, yes, he isn't great going forward, Tanganga, but I don't think Hill is either. He's a bit quicker, is Tanganga as well. He's absolutely rapid for a centre back. So which is why he can sort of fill in, I think, in the full back position slightly better. And there's also Ben Godfrey as well that you could have done if you wanted this sort of profile. I know Ben Godfrey didn't have a good time against Ipswich, and I know there's injury record there, so potentially he wouldn't have been a better option. But Tanganga for me at £1 million would have been probably a better option than Hill anyway, if we wanted that sort of profile. But we don't. We want a fullback. And as I said, when you've got James Justin sat there, people who can play right back, can play left back, has played 99 times in the Premier League, has played for England. Not just played at left back though, played at left back to a really good level. This is a guy, James Justin, who was playing at left back when Leicester were trying to get in the top 4, and he's played at right. And as I said, I just don't quite get this move, unless I could get it more if Justin wasn't available. We know because of what Cofentes said, Marty Cofentes, of course, the Leicester City manager, yesterday said that he's now available. He only had a dead leg. He could even be playing this Saturday. So if that's the case, he's not got an injury issue, in my opinion. Go get him. That's just my feeling around this signing. I don't actually think this is going to happen. I think Leeds do obviously have genuine interest because I believe Mark McAdam's story. As I said, around Bournemouth, he's so good. But for me, it's a no-go for James Hill personally. Obviously, as I said, if he comes in, I'll support him. But I don't. Unless you're going to lose a centre-back. And obviously, I don't think we're going to lose Rodon. There's not been anything about that. We're obviously, hopefully, not going to lose Strauch. But even if we are going to lose Strauch, is James Hill good enough replacement? Probably not, in my opinion. So yeah, that's a no. That's a no for me, personally. Anyway, let's move on to Christan Uche. And I've been looking forward to this part of the video for a while because I've done quite a bit of research this morning into Christan Uche, because I do think this is pulling closer. I'll explain why. AS have reported this morning, obviously a Spanish outlet have reported this morning, that the price point of Uche has moved from 17 million now down to 13 million. And what's more interesting about this is, this is definitely true. And the reason I say this is true is because the centre-back that Sunderland just bought, Aldefrete or something like that, he was also sold from Getafe this summer to obviously Sunderland for 10 million, and he was one of the best centre backs last year in terms of statistical basis in the La Liga. And on record, the Getafe president, I believe, did an interview recently where he said that they lost him for peanuts because of this issue which Getafe have got right now in terms of being able to register players, and because they've got too much wage bill on the books. They've got to sell to buy, basically, and they've bought players and they can't register them until they move players off the wage bill and they actually get price and they get decent price points. So for that reason, they're losing the players on the cheap. And as I said, they lost a great centre back already this window to Sunderland for 10 million. Where, as I said, the sort of president of Getafe has come out and said that was for peanuts. So I do think this is probably true. I think they are looking to move Uche on. I don't think they want to lose Uche, but I think it's a case of like we've got in this country with PSR. I think it's the same over there. But they're more limited in terms of they're not allowed to register until they've got the books balanced. And I think they are really struggling. And I think that this is why we're seeing Uche at the start of the window, who was about they wanted about 25 million, to now dropping down to around about the 13 million pound mark. And again, this does add up because it's this exact same sort of exploit in terms of Getafe that Sunderland managed to do with obviously centre back they brought in. So yeah, I actually think this is a real goer. I think at this price point, I'm going to get shouted out already for this because I just said, don't just go for opportunities in the market, Scott. Do not do that. Or Leeds United, don't do that. And now I'm going to say this is an opportunity in the market, and I do think this is an opportunity that Leeds United should go for. Everton have pulled out of the race, but still Wolves are knocking around. I believe Sunderland have had a look at times as well. So there is competition for this signing. But as I said, at £13 million, I think we could just go nip in there and get this deal. And I do think an actual player profile, when I look into it, which I'm going to mention in literally 10 seconds, I do think he could be a really good option for Leeds. And I'll explain why now. So let's start with his age. He's 22 years old, 6'3". He can play. He's both footed as well. He can play. He predominantly plays in the number 10 role, but can play in the number 8 role as well. In terms of last season, in for Getafe, he managed 4 goals and 6 assists. He also, which is interesting, has played 1 game for Getafe this season and scored and assisted in that game as well, in his first game in the season this year. So potentially you can see an uprise potentially where that goes on to the next level this year, which is obviously when you want to buy in as a player progresses the career. You want to buy in as they've just put a decent figure up, but before they have the outstanding season, which hopefully was going to have for Getafe, hopefully Leeds can sweep in and get that season at Leeds United. So yeah, he managed, as I said, 4 goals, 6 assists last year, and also interestingly he created 29 chances, which actually put him in the 91st percentile for number 10s in Getafe in La Liga last year. So I mean that is someone of pedigree. And when you compare the 6'3" nature that he's got with the fact that he still creates chances as well, I think this is a really decent operator for Leeds United. And then I looked in further to it. He's also in the 100th percentile for fouls won, which is fantastic because we know Leeds United, especially when we play games like Arsenal, we are going to need to take the pressure off. And the ability for the ball to go long to a player, and to be able to hold it up with his physical attributes that we know he has, win us a foul and get us up the pitch and take pressure off that back four, he's going to be massively important for Leeds United this season. So to have a player that can do that, and sort of can win fouls, and as I said, 100th percentile, so as good as it gets for anyone in the league at that sort of number 10 position for Uche. I think that's a really, really promising sign. In terms of defensively as well, furthermore, he was in the 89th percentile for tackles won, the 92th percentile for balls recovered, and he's also, I believe, in like the 76th percentile for duels won as well. And he's also quite a decent dribbler in the 76th percentile for that as well. And the main one of all of these is, I believe he was in the 89th percentile for possession won in the final third. And if I look at Leeds United's performance on Monday night of everything that we did well in that game, which was a lot, the way we won back the ball in the final third was outstanding. It was absolutely outstanding. It was our best thing in the whole game, in my opinion. The press and the way we pressed and how controlled it was, but how aggressive it was when we did it was the best thing about the Leeds United performance on Monday. It's the thing I've raved about since. And to add a player in who's strong, who actually has got that extra bit of quality, which is obviously seen by the way he can dribble and the way he gets assists and the way he creates chances, which are all really high data points for Uche, and offers the physicality side of it as well, standing at 6'3", really good, as I said, in the duels, etc., that we've mentioned, and he's got the ability to win the ball in the final third at a really sort of comprehensive rate. It just sounds perfect, people. It genuinely sounds perfect. I think this is a goer. I really do. I'm not sure Leeds United will 100% go there. But for me, this is an opportunity that we should do. And also as well, at 22 years old, if he puts up anything in the league next year, in terms of an ROI, so return on investment on for him, at 22 years old, at 23 next year, we could easily treble our money on him, easily, if he does anything. Because look, I mean, as I said, I've quoted this before, but look what Otara's price point. Didn't do that well at Bournemouth, was in and out of the team, scored a hat-trick, I believe, in 1 game, scored 3 goals elsewhere throughout the year, was in and out, and he went for £43 million. Amari Hutchinson, again, I think scored 2 goals last year, went for £38 million. But the price points of young players is so high at the moment because of the resale value that they offer and the ability that you don't lose money on them, that if we do anything with Uche next year, he'll go for easily more than the £13 million that we're going to pay for him. So he's almost a risk-free signing. And also, as well, if you spend something like £13 million on Uche, what does that allow you to do? It allows you to get the right winger, for which for me is massively important. So if I was Leeds United right now, I would go and do this deal at 13 million if it's the reported fee, which, as I said, with the context applied in terms of how much the Getafe sold Sunderland for, the problems that we know Getafe are in, I think that's plausible. And the other thing to mention with that is it might be plausible to go further. You might even better get him for less than 13 million, because if they really, really need to sell, you might better do a deal even cheaper. So yeah, for me, I will go get it. And obviously the main thing is that allows you then, because you've not overspent on the number 10 role, it allows you then to go and buy a right winger, which is massive for us. I'd go look at Bakwa, as I've said. I think he'd be a cracking option. Nico Gonzalez, Tasnakov, I believe he's called, of Girona. Obviously, I remember him tearing it up a bit in the sort of. Did he tear up in the World Cup? Or I think it's someone else. Anyway, the Girona winger has been is someone that I think you could do. He obviously he wants out of there. 27 years old, scored tons of goals in La Liga over the last few seasons. He's an option on that right hand side. I'd go get Uche and I'd go get one of them because I think Uche fits the profile of what we need. Because the thing is with the number 10 role, and I've talked about this, is that I don't want just a traditional number 10. Like, I'm not convinced an El Canoes fits anymore because I don't think we can play like we did against Everton and the way we dominated in that midfield with an El Canoes. And as I said, I look at sort of what I think Leeds United are basing it on and the midfields that we're basing it on. Newcastle as a real place point holder. They don't have a player like El Canoes in their ranks. They don't. I know they were looking at him this summer, but they don't have a player in the midfield. And they've been so solid and so dominant, so ability to dominate games in that midfield so well over the last few years, Newcastle United. And even look at, as I said, what Sunderland do, where they didn't play with it, where they signed Enzo Lefebvre this summer for over £20 million. Yet they picked a midfield three of Siddiqui. Xhaka, and Diarra, of course. Again, not going for the number 10 role because they know how important it is to dominate that midfield and not be bossed. And I think Uche, with the defensive support and the attacking thing that he gives you, I think gives a really nice balance. And he also, again, he's really tall at 6'3", so it gives you that height advantage, which is something that Leeds United have been prioritising this window. I think this is so obvious. I really do. Maybe Leeds United not even linked, but there's been so many rumours around it now. But the only thing with this signing is that I haven't heard it yet, I don't think, from an English publication. And not that these publications abroad are wrong. I'm not saying that at all, but we haven't heard anything on the Leeds end yet. We haven't heard of Graham Smythe. I know he's on holiday, but we haven't heard anything from the YEP, nothing from Baron Cross, nothing from like a David Ornstein. We haven't, or even for Fabrizio Romano, who we know is close at times, to obviously close to basically every deal. We haven't heard anything from any of them. So I think there's still a bit to go, which is why I've still got him as a 1 rating. I still think it's potentially quite unlikely, but for me, it would be a cracking addition. I think it really would. Anyway, moving on to the final story of today, which is Gustavo Hamer. Now, the Sheffield Star, by the way, who are outstanding for Sheffield United News, have been talking about Gustavo Hamer in the last sort of 24 hours. And they've basically said that they think he prefers a move to the Eredivisie, so the Dutch league, as opposed to going to the Premier League. And also it's suggested that he will not force a move away from Bramall Lane, which is something that, as we've seen players like Wissa and Isak, and I think someone else is trying to force a move in the Premier League at the moment, who I can't even come to on top of my head. It's nice to see that he ain't forcing a move out of Sheffield United. Now, it won't be that unideal if you want to come to Leeds and forcing it, but you know that you're bringing that mentality into the club, and I don't think we want that. I think that's something we know now with how drastically clubs look at players, but actually the character is something that clubs really look at now. Like I remember listening to an Eddie Howe interview where he mentioned that he really, really analyses the character and how they're going to fit into the dressing room. And someone who isn't forcing a move is the sort of character I'd want at Leeds United. Because if you do it once to a club, you're probably going to do it again, is my feeling. Like if Isak, I know it's been mentioned quite a lot, but if Isak goes into Liverpool, I think there's a potential that he could force a move in 3 years' time to Real Madrid. I think that is a potential. So it's nice to see that Hamer isn't doing that. Although that does obviously mean that the price point is going to be what Sheffield United want for him. And also, with their poor form now, could that stance change? I think it probably could. I still think that Hamer would come to Leeds. I might be wrong. I still think he fancies it. I think he obviously came to watch Jadon Bogle. We know they're best mates last season, when obviously we thought he had. We know Leeds United have been linked as well when we tabled a £13 million bid last summer. I think we would do a Hamer deal. And I do think Hamer would come if we went there. I really do think that would be the case. I just don't think he's sort of like putting it on the perch and saying, I really want to go there. But I think he would if the sort of fee was paid, and I think that would be the case. My worry about Gustavo Hamer, and if we signed Hamer, I will know why we've signed him. I don't hate the signing at all. This is not what this next segment's going to be about. But I have some major concerns about Gustavo Hamer. because one thing I will say about him, he's an unbelievably talented footballer. There is no doubt about it. His technical ability, the way he strikes the ball, the way he can take free kicks like some of the score last week, the way he can sort of see a pass that others can't. He's a great footballer. He really is. There is something wrong, I think, fundamentally with Hamer and his professionalism towards the game of football. I genuinely believe this. And I know people have bashed this drum quite a bit with him, and his build looks a bit bigger than an average football and stuff like that. People can have different builds. I can get on with that. My worry with Hamer is I do think there is potentially some sort of a discipline issue. Not in terms of I think when he's on the pitch, he's like a bull. Like I don't think he's like half-arsing anything. I just think when there is fundamental underlying issues that I think they're obvious to everybody with Hamer, which is like last year he basically couldn't play over 70 minutes in a game. That is pretty much a fact. Like he was constantly coming off in the 70th minute. That would concern me because the way Sheffield United played last season and how the Championship is in comparison to the Premier League, it's way slower in the Championship, as we know. It's nowhere near as intense in the Championship, as we know. And even the way Chris Wilder played last year with Sheffield United, yes, it was a reasonably intense style, but compared to what I saw on Monday night from a Leeds United team in terms of intensity, it was nowhere near. It was nowhere near. And if that is the level pointer, and that is the sort of and Monday night is what we're going to be like, I can't see him lasting more than 50 minutes in a game for Leeds. I genuinely, he'd have to massively improve his cardiovascular fitness to be able to play longer. He'd massive improve. He's a player that you'd have to train with for months to get him up to speed, in my opinion. Because we've already talked about, Daniel Farke has already mentioned that with like Calvert-Lewin, and it can take some players 3 to 4 weeks to sort of mould in. I think it'd take him a while to mould into this setup. I really do. And the problem is when you've been ill-disciplined at times, which I think probably Hamer probably has, you're much more open to getting injuries. I think your body naturally can get injured much more frequently. So I don't hate the sign if it was to happen, and I get on board with it in terms of a quality standpoint. I get it. And as I said, I can't knock his work ethic on the pitch. I just think there is something wrong probably off the pitch. Not in terms of, I don't think it's a sort of like, I'm not going to turn up to training mentality. Nothing like that. I think it's more just a discipline at times in terms of like what he eats, his diet and stuff like that. I think that's probably a concern. And I think that is why we've seen him not being able to do the 90 minutes in the Championship. And if you can't do 90 in the Championship, you definitely can't do 90 in the Premier League. So I just don't think it's quite the right fit. And I would probably look at an Uche move instead. I also think potentially Hamer, you're looking around the sort of 18 million pound mark. And obviously Uche at 13 million, and he's 22 compared to 28, so he's got a nice ROI on him. I'd go Uche, I think. But yeah, thanks all for watching, as always. I hope you've enjoyed the video. As I said, if you could help the channel by dropping a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, massive up the channel. And I will see you tomorrow on Saturday, on match day, for some more Leeds United news. Thanks all for watching, as always, and see you all later. Bye for now, everybody. Bye for